You felt it before you could name it. A tightening in the throat, a sting behind the eyes, and then, without asking permission, tears. Maybe it was a film. Maybe it was a song you hadn't heard in years. Maybe it was nothing. Just a Tuesday afternoon and something small that broke you open completely. You wiped your face and felt, briefly, embarrassed. Like your body had done something it wasn't supposed to. But here is what no one told you. You are the only animal on Earth that does that. Not just the only mammal, the only animal. Of the millions of species that have ever existed on this planet, only one cries emotional tears, and that one is you. The question isn't why you cry. The question is why you, and only you, evolved to do it at all. The answer is stranger than you think. Start with what crying actually is. Not the cultural version, not the movie version, the biological version. When you cry, your lacrimal glands, small almond-shaped structures tucked just above your eyes, release a liquid that is chemically distinct from any other tears your eyes produce. Your eyes make three kinds of tears. Basal tears, which coat the eye constantly to keep it moist. Reflex tears, which flush out irritants like smoke or dust. And emotional tears. Biochemist William Frey spent years studying the chemical composition of emotional tears in the 1980s and found something remarkable. Emotional tears contain significantly higher concentrations of stress hormones than reflex tears. Specifically, they contain elevated levels of adrenocorticotropic hormone, the same hormone your body releases during intense psychological stress, as well as leucine and kephalin, a natural painkiller. Your tears, in other words, are not just water. They are a chemical release, a biological exhaust system for emotional pressure that has built up somewhere inside you, which raises the obvious question. If crying is a stress release, why does it have to be visible? Why do the chemicals have to come out through your eyes where everyone can see them? The answer takes you back roughly 200,000 years to a world where being alone was a death sentence. Your ancestors lived in small, tight bands. In that world, no individual could survive without the group. You couldn't hunt large animals alone. You couldn't defend against predators alone. You couldn't heal from serious injury alone. The group was the survival unit, and the group only held together if its members could read each other, accurately, instantly, without deception. This is where emotional tears become interesting. Neuroscientist Ad Vingerhoets, who has spent more time studying human crying than perhaps anyone alive, argues that emotional tears evolved as what he calls a vulnerability signal. A signal so honest, so physiologically difficult to fake that it could only mean one thing. This person is genuinely overwhelmed. This person needs help. Think about what that signal does. It makes your eyes glassy and reflective, more visible at a distance. It changes the way your face moves. It is virtually impossible to produce on demand without genuine emotional activation. Try it. You cannot simply cry whenever you want to. The body refuses. The lacrimal glands don't respond to commands. They respond to states. This matters enormously. In a small group where every member's reliability is essential to survival, the ability to signal genuine distress, undeniably, unfakeably, is extraordinarily valuable. It tells the group, this person is not performing. This person is actually struggling. And in a world where reading that distinction correctly could mean the difference between the group functioning or fracturing, that signal had enormous survival value. But there is another layer, and this one is even stranger. Psychologist Jonathan Rottenberg has studied the social function of crying extensively. He found that seeing someone else cry triggers an involuntary neurological response in observers. Your mirror neurons, the same neural circuits that fire when you watch someone pick up a cup, as if you yourself were picking it up, activate intensely when you watch someone cry. You don't just observe their distress. On a neurological level, you briefly experience it. Crying is contagious, not metaphorically but mechanically. It is a transmission system, a way of broadcasting an emotional state directly into the nervous systems of the people around you. And it works. Studies consistently show that people who cry in front of others receive more support, more comfort, more practical help than those who don't. The signal generates the response it was designed to generate. Help arrives. So why don't other animals have this? Why doesn't a chimpanzee, our closest genetic relative, cry emotional tears when it is frightened or grieving? The answer may lie in the size and complexity of the social groups that different animals live in. Primatologist Robin Dunbar, the same researcher who studied human language as a social bonding tool, has argued that the cognitive demands of managing social relationships scale with group size. Chimpanzees live in groups of roughly 20 to 50 individuals. They use grooming, vocalization, and facial expression to manage those relationships. It works, but it works at that scale. Your ancestors, over time, were managing social networks of 150 people or more. Dunbar's famous number, 150, represents the cognitive limit of stable social relationships the human brain can maintain. At that scale, you needed new tools, more nuanced signals, harder to fake communications. Language was one. Emotional tears may have been another. There is also the matter of silence. Tears are quiet. This matters more than it sounds. A vocalizing animal, one that screams or wails to signal distress, broadcasts its location to every predator within earshot. Tears communicate distress to the social group without making a sound. In a world with large predators, the ability to signal needs silently to the people immediately around you without alerting everything else in the landscape was a meaningful advantage. But crying does something else, something that took researchers much longer to understand. Psychologist Lauren Bylsma has studied what happens after people cry. Not during, after. Her research found that the majority of people who cry report feeling better afterward, not immediately. The emotional relief typically arrives 30 to 90 minutes after crying, not during it, and it only arrives under specific conditions. When the person who cried felt understood, when someone responded with warmth or comfort, when the crying happened in a safe context. This suggests that emotional tears don't just signal distress, they initiate a social repair sequence. Cry, receive comfort, feel better. The tears is the opening move in a social transaction that ends in reconnection. The lacrimal gland is, in some sense, a relationship maintenance organ, which explains something you may have noticed about your own crying. Crying alone rarely feels as good as crying with someone. Crying in front of a stranger on a train feels worse than crying with a friend. Crying when the person you needed wasn't there, didn't come, didn't notice, didn't respond, can feel worse than not crying at all. The biology expects a response. When the response doesn't come, something is left unresolved. The exhaust valve opened, but the pressure didn't fully release. This is also why people sometimes cry at films and music. What Rottenberg calls the paradox of pleasant crying. You are watching something fictional. Nothing bad is actually happening to you, and yet the signal fires. The tears come. Researchers believe this happens because your emotional system, ancient, pre-verbal, reading faces and voices and narrative arcs, cannot fully distinguish between real loss and vividly represented loss. The brain pattern matches, the music swells, the character's face crumples. Your lacrimal glands respond to the simulation of distress, the same way they respond to actual distress. And here is the part that changes how you might think about the next time it happens to you. That instinct, that reflexive embarrassment when tears arrive unexpectedly, the urge to wipe your face and look away and apologize, that embarrassment is new. For the vast majority of human existence in tight-knit groups where everyone knew everyone, visible emotional distress was not a weakness. It was a communication, a piece of critical social information. It said, "I need the group," and the group responded. The embarrassment came later, with cities, with strangers, with professional contexts that punish vulnerability, with the strange modern situation of being constantly surrounded by people you do not know well enough to signal to. The tear still fires, the ancient signal still goes out. But in a world of strangers, there is no one calibrated to receive it. The distress signal lands in empty air. You are carrying, in your lacrimal glands, a piece of social technology 200,000 years old. It was designed for a world of campfires and small groups and people who knew your name and your history and your capacity for pain. It was designed to be seen, to be answered, to be the first word in a conversation that ended with your hand held or your shoulder touched or simply someone sitting beside you in the dark. The next time your eyes sting in a movie theater, the next time you feel the pressure building behind your face on a drive home, the next time you cry for reasons you cannot fully explain, that is not weakness leaking out. That is one of the most sophisticated social signals your species ever evolved. broadcasting, as it has for 200,000 years, the same simple message. I am here. I need you. Are you there?